Hey guys, today we are talking about solving linear inequalities. So to solve linear inequalities, we have to remember how to write our answers, because an answer to an inequality isn't what x equals, it's what x is less than or greater than. So we have to remember about inequality notation, set notation, and interval notation. Inequality notation, we have our less than, greater than, less than or equal to, and greater than or equal to. But I just wanted to make a quick note here. X is greater than 3 reads as x is greater than 3. But I just want to remind you, it's always good to read from what your x value is. X is greater than 3 and 3 is less than x are the same. And it makes sense if we always just look at what x is. X is bigger than 3, x is bigger than 3. That kind of helps us keep things organized. Then again, set notation. Remember, set notation is pretty much the same thing as inequality notation, but all we're doing is we're putting the squiggle brackets on the end that say that's the set of all the numbers in there. And then we have that straight up and down line saying x such that. So this is x such that, or the set of all x's such that x is greater than 3. And then lastly, interval notation. Remember, that's where we just put our parameters. For today, it's usually going to be a number and infinity. Now remember, infinity, we always use a parentheses, but for everything else, it could be brackets if it's equal to. So if it's parentheses, it's not equal to. If it's brackets, it's equal to. Now whenever we solve an inequality, it's just like solving an equation. Let's take a look here at number 1. Okay, so number 1, I have 5x minus 3 is greater than or equal to 3x minus 2. So to solve an equation, remember what we do. We clear the fractions, we distribute, we combine like terms on each side, and then we solve. Well, good news for us, there's no fractions, there's nothing to distribute, and there's no like terms to combine because they're on opposite sides of my inequality. So I just need to solve. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to add 3 to both sides, and I am going to, at the same time, minus 3x to both sides, okay? So this 3x and this minus 3x make 0. This negative 3 and this positive 3 make 0. So let's see where that takes me. 5x minus 3x is 2x. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. So I'm going to have a 2x is greater than or equal to 1. To solve for x now, I want to get it by itself. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So that's going to give me an answer of x, because 2 divided by 2 cancels, is greater than or equal to 1 divided by 2. Remember, this isn't 2, this is 1/2. So x is going to be greater than or equal to 1/2. Remember to square or circle your answer. Okay, so there we have x is greater than or equal to 1/2. Now let's write that as a graph, a set notation, and a interval notation. So as a graph, all you got to do, doesn't matter where you put this point, but you're going to put a point and you're going to name it whatever your answer is. So my answer is 1/2. Then we have to think, am I going to put a closed circle on that point or an open circle? I'm going to put a closed circle on this one because it is equal to. And then is my graph going to go to the right or to the left? It's going to go to the right because it is greater than, it is bigger than. Remember also, if your x is on the left side, whatever direction your arrow is pointing, that's the way it's going to go. So, but if the x is on the right side, it's the opposite. Okay, for set notation, remember set notation is the same, it's pretty much the same thing as my inequality. We're just going to go, our squiggle brackets are all numbers of x such that x is greater than or equal to 1/2, and we're going to close those squiggle brackets. Interval notation. Well, my left side, the farthest left thing that we have, is 1/2. And I'm going to put a bracket on that 1/2 because it is equal to that. Now the farthest right that we go on my graph is, we don't know what it is. It's infinity. It keeps going and keeps going and keeps going to the right because it's just greater than. There's nothing there's nothing that's less than. So we're just going to put an infinity here and a parentheses. Remember, parentheses always goes with infinity. All right, there's something really important that we need to talk about before we go on to number 2. It's because this right here, I boxed it just to remind us all. Let me read it for you. When you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, flip the inequality sign. Let me talk to you real quick about why this works, okay? Why this is the way it is. So let's say we have this. 2 is greater than -5. We can all agree that that's true, right? 2 is greater than -5. But let's say that I multiplied both sides by -2, okay? Let's say I multiplied this side by -2 and multiplied this side by -2. Well, this is something that I can do, right? You can do the same thing to both sides of an equation. It stays true. But let's see here. -2 times 2 is -4. 5 times -2 is a +10. Is -4 greater than 10? No. So I have to flip the sign. If you multiply or divide both sides by a negative, you have to flip the sign. It's very important for today's lesson. The same thing goes for division. If I divide this side by -2 and divide this side by -2, hey, look, we're back where we started. I'm at 2 and -5. And so once again, I need to flip this sign to be back where we started. That's going to really apply to this next problem, number 2 that we have here. So let's take a look at number 2. We have 4 minus 2x is greater than 6. Okay, first off, I'm going to get this 4 over to be with this 6. So I'm going to minus 4 to both sides. That's going to leave me with -2x is greater than 2. Then I need to get rid of that -2. It's being multiplied, so I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to divide it. So I'm going to divide this side by -2, and that's going to give me x is greater than -1, except it's not. It's not greater than -1. It's going to be less than. We cannot forget, if we multiply or divide both sides by a negative, we flip the sign. It's very important because it makes the answer completely different. So my answer is going to be x is less than -1. Let's put that on a graph. Let's put a point here, and let's name it -1. And now I'm going to circle that point. I'm not going to fill it in because it's just less than. It is not less than or equal to. And my graph is going to go to the left because it is less than -1. So it's smaller than. In interval notation, be careful, these two are switched. Set notation, interval notation, just to keep us on our toes. In interval notation, we're going to start off with negative infinity, right? It goes negative infinity and it goes all the way to -1 and it stops. And it's another parentheses. Because it is not equal to -1, it's just a parentheses. All right, guys, we just have 2 more problems, then we're done. Number 3 here. Number 3, I have to distribute to start off with. We need to distribute. So I'm going to distribute this 8. So we're going to go 8 times 2x is 16x. 8 times -1 is -8. So we have 16x minus 8 is greater than 11x minus 17. Okay, let's get my whole numbers together and let's get my x's together. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides. -17 plus 8 is going to give me -9. And I'm going to subtract 11x to both sides. And so that's going to give me 5x. So I'm going to have 5x is greater than negative 9. Okay, to solve for x, we're going to divide both sides by 5. And that's going to leave me x is greater than negative 9/5. One thing to note real quick here, guys. I had a negative here, and I divided into that negative. However, the number that I divided by wasn't negative. It only flips if you divide both sides at the same time by a negative. Okay? So that's why my answer, it doesn't flip, it's just x is greater than negative 9/5. So I'm going to put a point here. I'm going to name it negative 9/5. I'm going to put a circle at that point because I know it is not equal to that point, but it's going to be greater than. We're going to go to the right. So for set notation, remember, set notation is where we just take what this is and we rewrite it fancy. Right? We're going to do all numbers of x such that x is greater than negative 9/5. Oh, in fact, I forgot to write the set notation up here. I knew I forgot something. I always do that. My set notation, once again, it's just all numbers of x such that x is less than negative 1. So that's the great thing, though, right? Your set notation is just the same as what your your inequality is, okay? It's just written more fancy. All right, interval notation. Interval notation, we start at negative 9/5, and we're going to use a parentheses. So it's going to be parentheses negative 9/5 because it is not equal to that, comma, all the way to infinity. And then we use a parentheses at that infinity as well. Okay, let's take a look at our last problem here, number 4. So number 4, we do have a fraction. I'm going to go ahead from the very start, I'm going to clear out this fraction, okay? I'm going to multiply both sides by the denominator of that fraction. So it's going to cancel out here, and I'm just going to be left with 5 times x minus 2 is less than or equal to 15 times 2 is 30. Then I can distribute. I can go 5 times x, 5 times negative 2, so we're going to have 5x minus 10 is less than or equal to 30. Solve, we're going to add 10 to both sides. And that's going to leave me with 5x is less than or equal to 40. Divide both sides by 5. And x is less than or equal to 40 divided by 5 is 8. So, there you have it. Let's put our point here on our graph at 8. And are we going to fill in or leave that graph open? We are going to fill it in. And it's going to go to the left. All right, my graph is going to fill in to the left because it is less than and equal. All right, so my interval notation, we start at negative infinity, put a parentheses there, and we go all the way up to 8, and we're going to put a bracket at the 8 because it is equal to. And last but not least, we're going to rewrite my inequality in set notation, so we're going to do all numbers of x such that x is less than or equal to 8. All right, guys, that's about it. Just big thing. Remember to flip the inequality if you multiply or divide by a negative. It's really going to change some answers. All right, guys, hope this was helpful for you. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope you have a great rest of your day.